You've probably heard that the hand is faster than the eye. Is this true though? Well, today we are going to find that out. The age-old question, and I set out to handle it. So, where to start? Well, I thought like any question you might have these days, I'd try Google and go from there. However, this proved to have one slight problem with it, in that there was the tiny detail of the answer both being yes and no, depending on where I looked. So, I had to come up with something else. The next logical step was to look at whether the hand can move faster than the eye can perceive motion, which proved about as simple as you're going to see. As many of us are aware, light is passed through our eye's lens and focused onto the retina. As photons hit rods and cones in our eye, they trigger chemical reactions that results in an electrical signal being passed to the brain. Simply, rods operate in lower light and cones operate at higher light levels and are capable of colour vision. They are named because, well, rods look like rods and cones look like cones, which, along with other names such as ichthyosaur, meaning fish lizard, and the bare-faced go-away bird, just goes to show the creative potential of scientists. So, what's the limiting factor? Well, because of how well designed we are, it's the brain. And because we're dealing with said organ, it gets complicated very quickly. So I'll try and keep things simple, but to do that, we need to have a quick look at frame rates. A frame rate is the number of images displayed or perceived per second, and it's measured in hertz. For example, a computer monitor operating at 60 hertz is displaying 60 images per second. At 10 to 12 hertz, the brain can process each image individually. Higher frame rates are perceived as motion, and it's here that we must introduce the flicker fusion threshold, or the critical flicker fusion threshold. This is the rate at which a light source appears stable. Below this limit, an image will appear to flicker. Whilst there are many factors that go into determining what this actual limit is, for most people the maximum is about 60 hertz. Which is also why most computer monitors operate at 60 Hz as well. Above the CFF, images will appear to blur, so if I showed you a red image, followed shortly by a green image, each for about 10 milliseconds, then you would only see them as a single yellow image. Most TV shows and movies are shown at 24 Hz, but each image is shown 2 or 3 times, bringing the actual frame rate to 48 or 72 Hz. So, is 48 Hz the rate to beat? Well, probably not. Our brains can actually do better than this through a phenomenon known as the wagon wheel effect. Whilst you may not have heard of this before, you've almost certainly seen it. This is where a fast-moving object appears to move slowly in the opposite direction. At the frame rate of most movies, TVs and computer screens, this is actually quite easy to observe. So, with all this in mind, how fast can the hand move? Well, according to one study, the hand regularly performs actions that are faster than 2 Hz and can perform actions at a whopping maximum 12 Hz. So, it's not looking too good for the hand. And in fact, there are other scientific studies out there that suggest the eye is significantly faster than the hand. However, if the eye is so much faster, then how does sleight of hand work? I mean, take this for example. Alright, so for this trick I've pulled out the 6 and the 9, and I'm going to see how good our ability to estimate things is. So I'm going to take the 6 first, I'm going to pop it in, and I'm going to estimate that's about the 14th card down. 52 cards in the deck, plus the 2 jokers, so we'll have 54 in this case. I take the 9, and I do the same thing. And I guess that's about the 33rd card down. Push that in flush. Now, since we know where they are, or we think we know where they are, the next step is really simple. all I do is, and we have them back. I will teach you that trick at the end, but how come it even works in the first place? Well, that's because we're missing a few key components. One of the most important aspects to any sleight of hand performance is misdirection. Though that's not just simply pointing in some random direction and saying, "What's that?" We are dealing with the brain, which loves to fill in details. So if you're not expecting something or focusing on the wrong action at the wrong time, well, then the hand stands a chance. Another option is to just not even give the eyes a chance. Covering is very common. Take my original color change. This works not because my hand is too quick for the eye, but that I don't even give the eye a chance. Big movements also cover little movements, so a fast action combined with some clever misdirection might be enough to fool the brain. You'll probably notice that something's happened, but you won't know what's happened. Studies have shown that our brains aren't exactly good at tracking moving objects, especially erratic ones. One such example is where people were asked to track a moving square on a screen. Participants tracked consistently ahead of the actual object. The faster it moved, the further ahead they tracked. This study also showed that the hand's reaction time was in fact about 90 milliseconds slower than that of the eye, further demonstrating which is faster. This also goes for tapping to a beat. People in fact tend to tap a few milliseconds ahead of the actual beat. So, what have we learned? Well, the hand is not faster than the eye. But that's okay. Particularly when dealing with the unexpected, our brains aren't always amazing at keeping up. And now, as promised, I'm going to explain how I did one of my earlier tricks. Enjoy. Okay, so the only name I'm aware of for this trick is the 6 and 9 trick, though feel free to call it whatever you want. Now for this trick, it requires just a tiny bit of setup and a little bit of practice. So, like I showed before, I pulled out the 9 of clubs and the 6 of spades. However, that's not everything we need to do the trick, and in fact, I'm going to have the 9 of spades and the 6 of clubs as well. The setup that you need to do is to take one of them, the 6 of spades, in this case I'm going to put on the top of the deck. Now make sure you don't take the 9 of spades, you want the other suit, so the 9 of clubs, and I'm going to put that underneath. There, the setup's done. This can be done with any deck, there's nothing special other than I've put the 6 and 9 of opposite black suits on the top and bottom. Now make sure you remember which order. Since I put the 6 on the top, as you'll remember in the trick, I took the 6, or the other 6, and then I put it in the middle. Now of course you don't actually have to remember exactly where it is, but if you give a rough estimate, it just gives people something else to think about while you're doing it. So you push that one in, and then you take the other 9, and you do likewise. Don't focus too much on the justification for it, because the more you try and explain why you're doing it, well, the more you'll make people suspicious. So now what we've got is a scenario where I've got the 1 6 and 1 9 somewhere in here. I don't actually know exactly where they are, I don't care. But what I'm going to do is simply grab the deck and when I'm ready, and drop it into the other hand. Now if you do it fast enough, your fingers will stick to the top and bottom cards. Like so. So what's going to happen is I'm actually going to drag that top and bottom 6 and 9 off. So if you do it quickly, and you don't need a super hard grip for this, all I do is let gravity do the rest. However, I would suggest that when you are practicing this trick, you do it over a soft surface like a mat or carpet or a bed or a couch. Don't do it over a hard surface, because if you drop it like I did, they're going to go everywhere and it's going to take a long time to pick all the cards back up. So yeah, the trick works because people see a spade and a club, but they don't remember which was the actual spade and which was the club. So when you pull out the other two at the end, people see, oh, there's a 6 and a 9. One's a club, one's a spade, so they're the same. So I guess in some senses this is a memory trick. So there's not really any sleight of hand beyond being able to drop the cards, but there we go. Remember, I'm almost a doctor, and until next time, be like a proton. Stay positive.